What is up, everyone? Welcome to round one of the Portland Monthly Premodern Paper Magic Afternoons January 2025 tournament. This is the first round of the new year, so let's see what decks are going to be kicking us off. First up, we have David running it back with his Draco Blast combo deck. If you didn't see this last December, this is a combo deck that does have a pretty decent mid-range plan. If you're not familiar with the combo, it mostly revolves around Erratic Explosion, which is a sorcery for 3 mana. Choose any target, reveal cards from the top of your library until reveal a non-land card. Erratic Explosion deals damage equal to that card's mana value to that permanent or player. And then the other half of the combo is Draco, which is a 16 mana artifact creature dragon. It does cost 2 less depending on number of basic lands, has flying, it's 9/9, all that stuff. But basically, you're only ever trying to get Draco with Erratic Explosion. How do you do that, you ask? Well, you're setting up the combo with Insidious Dreams, which is a 4 mana instant that lets you discard X cards, search your library for X cards, then shuffle and put those cards on top in any order. The deck also utilizes Scroll Rack and Volrath's Stronghold just in case you happen to draw, or God forbid your dragon gets discarded, and can set up the combo that way. Now, this does only deal 16, and 16 is not 20, so the rest of the deck is built around a more mid-range plan trying to get some damage across. There is 3 Hypnotic Specters, 3 Ravenous Rats, and 2 Mishra's Factories to try and get that damage the old-fashioned way, as well as 4 Lightning Bolts and 2 Plague Spitters. For card advantage, we're running 2 Skeletal Scryings, which is pretty sweet. I do love that card. And the deck also runs some hand attack with 4 Duress and 3 Cabal Therapies to make sure the path is clear before casting that Erratic Explosion. Sideboard is about what you would expect: some artifact hate, some glooms, some Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, Dystopias. There are also 2 Blood Moons, which the mana is not great for a Blood Moon deck, but I could see it potentially still working. There are plenty of swamps and you're fetching, prioritizing those, knowing you sideboard in Blood Moon, it probably works out fine. Anyways, that's the deck. Let's see who's playing against. Next up, we have John on what he's calling 5-color Threshold deck. And the only cards I see that care about Threshold actually are Nimble Mongoose. Otherwise, this is just 5-color Greed, and I am here for it. Now, you will notice the 4 Mongoose, the 4 Meddling Mages, the 3 Kyrian Dryads. Those are the main threats of the deck, and then everything else is just interaction, card draw, and value. 4 Swords, 2 Fire Ices, 2 Armageddons, and 1 Vindicate are the only interaction that's actually not in blue here. Otherwise, we're running 4 Portents, 4 Accumulated Knowledges, 4 Gushes, which we're going to get to in a minute, being very strange, 3 Counter Spells, and 3 Ops. Now, looking at the mana base, we do have 4 Moxes and 4 City Brasses to help get those color pips. Oh, and I did actually just see an Undiscovered Paradise, so that is the 9th way to get the mana fixing for all these different color pips. But the number of islands is actually what's really concerning me looking at those 4 Gushes. There are only 6 islands here. Yes, you do have 4 Flooded Strands and 2 Polluted Deltas to go find them, but that seems very suspect. And I would love to hear about John's experience with this deck and actually getting to use all 4 Gushes. All in all, a really crazy looking deck. I can't wait to see how it plays. So without further ado, let's get into the games. All right, here we are in game number 1. David is on the left. John is on the right. Now, looking at these deck lists, it is very much a combo deck versus I'd say mid-range. There's definitely control elements to John's list, but he is trying to outvalue his opponent while still having tempo threats. Now, this is round 1, so I don't think either player knows what the other is playing, but it does look like David is going to get to do my favorite thing in Magic, which is turn 1 Dark Ritual into Hippie. Now, it's not always the best thing in Premodern, but there we go. As there are lots of 1 mana answers, and David could potentially getting 2 for 1 here. However, if John does not have a turn 1 answer, this will at least equal out in value and could run away with the game depending on what he hits with that Hippie's trigger. This is one of the reasons why Dead Guy Ale can sometimes do so well at tournaments, is sometimes you just get really good Hippie hits. All right, we're going to see a Mox start here and a Polluted Delta. Pitching the City of Brass to the Mox. And we are actually going to fetch here as well. And David really just hoping that there is no Swords or Bolt, which there are. Well, I guess Fire, not Bolt, but still, Fire would do the job. Either way, hoping he gets one swing with his hippie at the very least. Okay, 2 mana. There's a Meddling Mage. All right. Now, there should be bits of paper near the camera for the players to write down what Meddling Mage named. Hopefully that does happen. But either way, it looks like we are going to get that hippie swinging in this next turn for David. Unless John has something else. Did he have another Mox, land, swords? Nope. Looks like we're going to go. Okay. Oop. Big camera shake. I think someone just bumped the camera. Or at least the umbrella with the light. We do try to position those away from everything. All right, Duress was named. Okay, so John having something in hand he does not want to lose to. Granted, all he's seen is black cards so far, so very possible that David could be on a very discard heavy deck, which he does run 4 Duresses, so that is a good name from Meddling Mage. But I think David deciding if he wants to do anything here before attacks. He does have a Mishra's Factory pulled to the front. Okay, that will get played for turn. And swing in with the hippie. What are we gonna hit? Ooh, an Armageddon. That's pretty good. Now, there's only 2 Armageddons in John's list, and those are usually only going to be cracked when he's far enough ahead on the field where it's going to be game. We did see those gushes, though. Gush into Armageddon is pretty nasty. I hadn't considered that before. Alright, so Meddling Mage potentially swinging in. Oh, the 2 damage. Yeah, sorry. 2 damage did not get marked from the Hypnotic Spectre. This is the... Oh, there's the Gush. 2 mana floating. This is the only moment where the Meddling Mage could swing in and trade with the Factory. The Factory, once animated, would have Summoning Sickness. Just for this turn. That does seem like a very small window and not a lot of advantage for John. So I don't think he's going to do that. Unless he's trying to draw out the blocker. But if you have a swords, I think you're more likely to swords the hippie. Alright, there's a Kyrian Dryad, using 1 of the 2 floating mana. Ooh, and we're going to Edict in response. That Meddling Mage will die. Alright, Kyrian Ranger, or Kyrian Dryad, sorry. Enters, and no other interaction. That 1 mana gone. Hippie coming in for 2. This is a bit dangerous because if David can hit the lands in John's hand. Oh, there's the Accumulate Knowledge. John's probably not too sad to see that go to the bin. At the very least, helps him draw another card next turn. David plan a land for turn. Did not animate the Factory to attack. Potentially missing on 2 points of damage, unless he's holding up interaction for something. Alright, 2 mana. There's a Meddling Mage. Trigger on the Dryad. Dryad gets a point. Now a 2/2. Notably, the only other green cards in John's deck are the Nimble Mongoose, for which this Threshold deck is named after. But are we going to see a Mongoose? John is all tapped out. That Gush really punishing his mana base. Only has 3 cards in hand. He's going to lose another one to the hippie next turn. But really thinking about what he wants to name with this Meddling Mage. Doesn't look like it's going to be Duress again. Now, he still hasn't seen any red mana. But he is naming Insidious Dreams, the tutor piece, which David does actually have in hand. And that is a bit unfortunate. So John correctly guessing what David's on. Again, he did bring it last month. And he does like to try to play out... Ooh, swinging in with the factory, offering a potential trade here. But yes, David does like to bring the same deck several months in a row just to test things out. And I think John realizing that's what's happening here, which is why he named Insidious Dreams, which is the best way to set up the Draco Blast combo. Okay, we're going to block with the Meddling Mage, it looks like. Ooh, and hitting an island. Alright, looks like a Sulphurous Springs, I think. I think that's a proxy. Oh wait, no, that's a 7th. That's a 7th edition foil, that's no proxy. Ooh, and John, still hitting his land drops, is going to Portent. Dryad gets another +1/+1 counter. Now we do see an Insidious Dreams in David's hand. It does cost 4 mana to use. And he does have to discard 2 cards, so he needs a land here. He's going to get hit with a Dryad for 3. John drawing off the Portent. Right, there's another Sulphur Spring, so he could try to go for it here. Instead, we're going to swing with the Hippie. If the Hippie hits a counter spell here, that's pretty huge. If John drew some sort of removal for the Hippie, he won't be able to counter spell the Insidious Dreams, but there's something to be said for not hitting the tutor, instead countering what the tutor for. There is the counter spell. And David might just try and go for it here. Alright, land. Non-7th, Sulphur Springs. I think that's Ice Age. And you have to go for it here, right? There is a Cabal Therapy. If you wanted to make extra sure. No, we're just going for it. Insidious Dreams, pitching 2 cards. Does it resolve? Alright, that is good. So David will get to set up the combo here. Notably, John is far below the 16 damage needed. So the way this will work is he'll put the Draco on the bottom of the 2 cards. Erratic Explosion as the card he'll draw for turn next turn. And John really needing to see a counterspell. He either needs to have one in hand already, or needs to draw it. Trying to decide what he wants to do. He might have a accumulate knowledge here in hand. No, okay. Just gonna untap. Draw for turn. Oh, there's an opt. I'll put that opt on the bottom, or that card on the bottom. And a Meddling Mage. That is actually devastating. Okay, swinging for 5 with the Kyrian Dryad. So Meddling Mage, I have to imagine, is naming Erratic Explosion. Now, David is not out of it yet. He does have the scroll rack to put the Draco back on top of his deck at any point, but he does have to get another way to tutor for it or just naturally draw it. But he is in a bit of a tough spot for sure. He's not winning this race anymore. Oh, there's an Nimble Mongoose here in the bin. John having 7 power on board means David is dead in 2 turns. And honestly, just a fantastic top deck from John. Means I think this game is pretty much over because we know the next card that David draws will not matter. There's a Swords for the Spectre. Does gain him a little bit of life, but it's not going to matter. Taking 7 here. Sorry, 8. 8 with the Swords. Down to 5. Draws the Draco. Yep, there we go. Had the combo. Unfortunately, couldn't do anything about it. And we're going to go to game number 2. All right, here we are in game number 2. Combo deck nearly getting there. Did a decent amount of damage just with that turn 1 hippie as well. But it looks like David will be on the play this time as well. We'll see if he can get another Dark Rit into hippie. I do see a hippie. Can't quite tell if he's got a Dark Ritual. Does not look like it. He does have a Plague Spitter though. Notably not very good against John's deck. It could potentially take care of a Meddling Mage or a very small Curian Dryad or Nimble Mongoose that doesn't have Threshold yet. But mostly in there just because every turn it deals chip damage, which gets his opponent below that very important 16 life. Now it looks like John's going to be mulliganing here, not liking his starting 7. I think on the draw you can be a little more aggressive with your mulligans, making sure you're at least getting a Meddling Mage or some sort of counter magic. Now David does have plenty of hand attack to double check to see if the combo is clear. And also just has good removal for Meddling Mages as well, having those 4 Lightning Bolts. And yeah, even the Plague Spitters if they get blocked and blown up or whatever. Alright, we'll see if John has a better starting 6. Looks like he will be keeping this 6. David is going to play out a Swamp. Say go. No turn 1 play for his deck, which is a little unusual. John going to play an Island Go. And tap 1. We're going to blind Cabal here. What are we going to name? There's a Mox, Mongoose, Gush, Meddling Mage, 2 accumulated knowledges. And it looks like whatever was named was not here. David just writing down the hand. I don't think John is going to be playing open on camera for us. So whatever David named was not there. I'm guessing Counterspell. There's a Meddling Mage. Say go. Meddling Mage probably naming Cabal here, just to prevent the blowout of hitting both 2 accumulated knowledges. No, Diabolic Edict, I believe. Alright, Sulphur Springs. Play out the hippie. A turn 3 hippie, definitely not as good as a turn 1. David did see that the way was clear. Ooh, I think John is picking up a counterspell here. Gonna swing in for 2 with the Meddling Mage. David is gonna let it through. Would much rather get this discard effect from the hippie. And let's see what he hits. Hitting the Nimble Mongoose. Can play a land for turn, tap 3, and attempt to cast a Plague Spitter. John thinking if he wants that to resolve. Looks like he does not. Makes sense. Plague Spitter, of course, just a problem for most of John's creatures right now. Go swing for 2. And pass. Ooh, there's a bolt. That bolt potentially could take care of that Meddling Mage, but not really a problem right now. I don't think David's too worried about his life total. Yep, there's a Gush. Not the worst hit, but John again not having 2 islands. There's a Volrath Stronghold. This being the only way in the deck for David to get... Oh, there's an AK. For David to get the Draco back from the graveyard. And deciding to fire off that lightning bolt on the Meddling Mage there. Maybe not wanting to take too much more damage. Is it 15? Oh, and I can see why. Okay, so he is going to Skeletal Scrying here for 3 or 4. Yeah, Skeletal Scrying for 4. Pay 4 life, remove 4 cards. Or 3. Okay, I guess he's only doing it for 3. Okay, well, yeah. Skeletal Scrying for 3. Draw 3, lose 3. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. And John, I think, being a little mana starved here, is going to accumulate knowledge. Draw 2. Does find a land. And is choosing to play it instead of pitching it to the Mox that he has in hand. Again, he is running 4 Gushes, so having 2 islands is pretty important. Speaking of important, less important. If he wants to reorder these 3 cards, or just give the deck a shuffle. A little tough to tell what he's looking at there. Alright, and it's just going to pass. Okay, Goblin Tinker in from the sideboard from David. Go swing in. His hippie trigger hits a Kyrian Dryad, which is probably what John put on top. And there's a Duress. Can only hit the Mox. And a Goblin Tinkerer. That other Mox gonna have real problems pretty soon. Basically forcing John to play out his only threat, which is probably what he's gonna do anyways. No real point in keeping cards in hand when you're up against a hippie. Alright. Got the Mongoose out. And pass. There's a Terminate. Doesn't do anything against the Mongoose, unfortunately. swing in for 2. You know, your choice of a land and a mystery card. It's the land. Is actually going to use the Goblin Tinker to take care of that Mox. And we are now in full-on racing mode. Gonna duress, revealing a counter spell. That is a very good hit. Now David can Skeletal Scry here again, but there's not really much reason to do so. Okay, looks like we are going to. Gonna pay 3. Lose 3, draw 3. There's a Gloom. Can't really see what the other cards are. I think he drew a rat as well, which would be a good blocker. John just gonna play out a land and pass. There's another rat. At this point, I think you just play blockers and hope for the best. Doesn't get the discard effect. Alright, gonna swing in for 3. Down to 9. And then plays out a Gloom. Not gonna do much considering John has no way of casting a white card. But it could be relevant. And David tapped out here. Alright, Nimble Mog is getting in. Jump block with the rats. Untap. And I think we're seeing a pretty good lock here. Oh, we're going to put the rat on top. Draw it for turn. So David able to generate an infinite amount of blockers here. Oh, that is an Armageddon. Swing for 3. Down to 6. Both players all tied up. David with counter magic up. Or an opt. Yep, that opt will get countered. And I think... yeah, I think David just has a lock on this game. Because he can do this one more time. Play out another blocker. Swing for 3. And then as long as John can't deal with the hippie next turn, I think this is over. Because even if he doesn't swing in with the Nimble Mongoose, both the rat and the Tinkerer can swing in. Yeah, you might as well just go to combat. There's not really much that can happen. And that is going to be game number 2. Here we are in game number 3. Funny enough, the combo deck actually not getting the win through combo. I did mention that the Draco Blast deck does have a pretty decent mid-range plan, and we did get to see it there. No combo necessary. It does help that the combo in this deck is super minimal. It is functionally just 2 cards, the Draco Blast and the Erratic Explosion, which might be one of the reasons why David is experimenting with it, because it does have such a small investment. Alright, we got... I think that's a Spinning Darkness, some sideboard spice. Keeping the Terminates in. I mean, they do hit 2 out of 3 creatures that John has. And a hippie. Plague Spitter. 2 lands. That seems keepable. No idea what's in John's hand right now. But he's deciding if he's keeping it. Nope, he is shuffling it back. Alright. But yeah, anyways, combo deck. When you really only need 2 cards and you're just playing tutors for the hell of it, seems pretty good. Now, Insidious Dreams is not what I would call a great tutor by any means, but it does get the job done here. There's some talk about what can be done to make black a stronger color in Premodern. It is notably the weakest color, much to my chagrin, and there have been rumblings of a potential unban to improve the color. I don't know exactly what that would be. Some people are speculating Necro. Tendrils might be a bit too much, although I wouldn't mind trying that out for fun. There was also some talk of introducing extraneous sets that came out during Premodern's time that would add some new cards to the format. One of which would be Mind Twist, or actually I think Mind Twist is already legal, it's just banned, right? Hymn to Torok. I think it was in like a beatdown set or something like that. Well, you know, as a pit rack player, having access to him would make my day. Although I can understand how it would potentially create unfun play patterns. I do play primarily black control in old school, and you better believe I'm running 4 hymns. And a Mind Twist. Alright, John with an amazing start here. Mox Island into... what are we naming? Duress. Alright. Oh, which will immediately get bolted. That meddling mage is done meddling. Oh, yep. David needing a red source here. There you go. Now John gonna portent on his turn. Both players playing a little quickly. Maybe a little afraid of going to time. And is just gonna pass with the Mox up, not hitting his second land drop. We have seen his deck function pretty well. Oh, there we go. We get an island off of the board. We have seen his deck function pretty well with not a ton of mana. Okay, we're going to fetch here into a Duress, so grabbing a swamp. And now it turns into what do you care about more? Oh, and it looks like we are going to grab the swords. Okay. So island counterspell here. David wanting to set up his creatures to stick around for a little while. Or at least having to have a counterspell burned to do so. Oh, it looks like we're getting a judge call away from the table. David does, oh, and then we're back. So I did just do a quick cut here. Sometimes David does help out with judge calls. He is, or at least was, a certified judge. Oh, we're gonna gush, okay. Gonna use that mana to portent. Finding 2 pyroclasms, and I'm not sure what the other one is. Very interesting. John finding some of his own sideboard tech. And not liking what he sees, so we're gonna shuffle those back in. So John actually has been able to gush more than I expected him to. It does help, I guess, when all your basics, except for I think 1 plains, are islands, and you are running 6 fetches. I do know John has been working on this deck for a while, so improving the mana base, or tinkering with the mana base, has definitely been something he's been working on. Oh, there's a hippie, which will immediately get swords. That explains the... yeah. The previous turn's duress. Alright, Pluto Delta. Gonna pay 1. Just gonna grab an island. Say go. There's another hippie. If David has one more land. Okay, we're gonna Cabal here. Probably just naming the counter spell we know is in hand. Assuming it resolves. Nope. It is gonna get countered. And David's just gonna pass. Alright, island for turn. There's a Nimble Mongoose. It does have Threshold. What did David just draw? Don't recognize that from his deck photo. Could be a proxy, potentially. Alright, that hippie does stick around. Mongoose is swinging in for 3. John is winning the race as it stands. Alright, plays out a Flood Strand, say go. There's a Bolt. It's a land, not a huge deal. What is John's last card, I wonder? Alright, there's a Plague Spitter. That could be good enough. It would also kill his hippie, I think. Which might be why he is reconsidering it. No. Alright, there we go. Plague Spitter on the field. And pass. Alright, Plague Spitter getting swords. Not wanting to trade with the Nimble Mongoose, I guess. That hippie, though, getting in for quite a bit, keeping John's hand size small. And there's the Edict effect for that Mongoose. That is a huge draw. And there's another Mongoose. Unfortunate. Alright, David just gonna fire off a bolt here. Gonna try and race. Currently winning, but just barely. Alright, swinging in for 2. Say go. I'm still not sure what that middle card of his is. Alright, we got a Spinning Darkness. Oh, that hippie's getting swords. That is problematic. There's a Duress, that's not doing much. And this Mongoose might go all the way. David down to 10. The red Elemental Blast. David gonna fire off a Duress here. Takes the counter spell. Really, the only way this works out for David is if he does get to combo off the Kieran Ranger. Or Dryad, sorry. That is open to every bit of removal that David has. We're gonna do Spinning Darkness so he can gain some life here. Unfortunately, that Cabal Therapy getting caught in the crossfire. You do not get to pick the order of the cards, it is just the top 3. There's something. Skeletal Scrying in hand. Alright, David's got this pulled to the front again. I still don't know what this is exactly. It's a little tough to tell. Definitely thinking about casting it. Alright, tapping 4. Oh, that's a Dark Ritual. Okay, we're gonna Skeletal Scrying here. For how much? 6? A lot. Looking for an edict effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Doing it for 5. Don't forget to take 5. Yep. Land for turn. Say go. Down to 2. There's an accumulated knowledge. Gonna gush. Land for turn. Gonna fetch. John down to 9. Both players with a grip of cards now. I think David drew 2 glooms. I don't think he drew any interaction. He drew a plague spitter that I can block, assuming he gets to resolve. Oh, there's also a dystopia. That's a good answer for the mongoose. John only having 1 green or white creature out. Okay, we're gonna gush here. Floating 2, looking for a counter spell. There's a meddling mage and an accumulate knowledge, I think, so not gonna do it. We're gonna AK though. Draw 2. Alright, and the dystopia will resolve. And then there's a gloom. Pass to John's turn. That nimble mongoose will have to be sacked. And deciding if he wants to play out a dryad. No, instead he's going to portent. Notably, David does have to pay 1 life to keep that dystopia in play every turn. He is only on 2 life. So it's entirely probable that John's is trying to wait him out. Do you want to pay for this dystopia? I do not. It will die. David reminding John to draw on his portent. Now there's a plague spitter, which David actually cannot play because it's going to be dealing 1 damage a turn, which will put David on a 2-turn clock. Alright, Mox, and do a Kyrian Dryad. Into another Kyrian Dryad. Say go. Sorry, that Dryad needs to be paid 1 more, right? Yeah, okay. Into a Nimble Mongoose. Leaving a blue up. He could have played out the Kyrian Dryad by just tapping a blue, but maybe he's wanting to hold up mana for Opt, would be my guess. Okay, one of them will get terminated. And then draw for turn. There's a Plague Spitter. Pass to you. Now, John just has to wait 2 turns. Alright, there's a Kyrian Dryad. And an Opt. That will get plussed up. Yeah, the board state as it stands, David is just dead. He can block. It'll still deal 1 to everybody. So David down to 1. There's a Terminate. That is a very good top deck. David's still alive at 1. John down to 8. Just asking, how many more Mongoose do you have? And at this point, I think John running a little light on threats. He does have a Meddling Mage, which will get Red Elemental blasted and pass. Yeah, and having to pay the extra 3 for the Gloom. David is going to pass. I think just having lands in hand. Checking round time here. I think we're going to time. We're going to turns. Alright, David on turn 1. We are tied 1-1 right now, so either player Oh, I guess we're going to turn 2 on David's turn. Well, that's removal. He could fetch to forfeit the game. Probably not going to happen. Alright, this is David's last turn. Yeah, does not have any action. He has a Dark Ritual and a Terminate. And I don't think John has any way to win here either. Nope. That's going to be it. The match ends in a draw. I did not see that coming when I saw these two matched up with each other. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I know a lot of you like to watch these videos, but not all of you are subscribed. It does help the channel a lot. If you want to help the channel financially, there is a Patreon link in the video description below. That money goes towards gear upgrades, travel expenses to go to more pre-modern and old school tournaments, and just making more pre-modern videos. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next time.